Hey everybody, I'm Jason Creel and this is the Lawn Care Life, and I want to talk to you about starting a lawn care business in 2021. And what I'm going to do in this video is cover 7 areas that you need to be considering. I'm going to talk about some mistakes that people make and what I think you should be doing if you're looking to get going in lawn care business soon. Let's get started with that right now. All right, the first area I want to talk about is your equipment, and this is something that people kind of panic over when they first start. Sometimes, not everybody, but I remember when I first started my initial lawn care business, I didn't know what type of mower to get or where to go get one or what I was thinking through. And I ended up buying a Hustler 44-inch Mini Z. It was a great mower. I bought it used. I think it had like a little over 200 hours, and it was great because it was not a complicated mower. It was the only mower I had. Maybe I had a push mower to go with it, but it was all I needed to get started and keep my costs down. So when it comes to equipment, what are some things you want to consider? Well, I think you do want to consider, your dealership, if you've got a dealer located nearby, and that can be a helpful thing. I don't think that's the only thing you want to consider, but obviously your budget's going to matter. And I've seen this for myself. Sometimes having too much money to start a business may sound like a great thing, but sometimes it can affect the way you think. I had one situation in my life where I had a little bit of money to invest in a business startup, and I screwed it up, and that was the worst results. When I've had better success is when I had not much money at all, and I had to really be smart about how I used the money and the equipment that I went out and purchased. So again, I don't know what your budget is, if you got $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 or whatever to go out and get yourself some lawn care equipment. Of course, you need a truck or something, most likely, to be able to be in the business. Maybe you already have that. But for me, a lot of times I just say, my rule of thumb is I would rather get a gently used commercial mower than a brand new residential mower. If I'm gonna go get a zero-turn mower and I just had $5,000 to spend. Well, you can get a pretty high-end residential mower, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Those are fine. But for me, I would rather get one that had 100 hours on it that somebody had stuck in their garage for the past 4 years and washes it off every time they use it, and it looks almost immaculate, and it's a $8,000 to $9,000 mower that they're selling for $4,500, something like that. To me, that's the route I would go. It's just bigger, faster, stronger, and usually a better quality of cut. Now again, if you're the type of personality and you just want that warranty and you want to buy a brand new and all that, then that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I just like bigger, faster, stronger, more powerful for the same amount of money. Now, if you can afford, a brand new, more powerful mower, then that's great too. So, just some examples of kind of like lower end commercial mowers would be like, for instance, if you were in Exmark, you got the Radius is, I guess they would qualify as a commercial grade mower, but it's more the lower end one, where their Laser Z is the nicer full-fledged commercial one. So if you were looking at Skag, you got like the Freedom Z or Liberty Z, and then you've got the Tiger Cats and those kind of things that are the more expensive ones. So if I can get the higher up one that's little bit used, I'm gonna go that route. But the main thing on your equipment is just don't go out and overspend and go crazy on it. I mean, get your equipment that you need to get started, and don't feel like you've got to have a mower for every single situation. Well, what if I do where there's a 36-inch gate and I can't fit my mower through there and it's a big backyard? Well, you know what? One option is just not taking that yard on, okay? You don't feel like I've got to go out and buy me a 36-inch zero-turn mower or a $1,500 push mower or $2,000 push mower to do 2 yards. If you want to start out simple and have one mower, and it's not the ideal mower for that yard, or it won't mow an apartment complex because it's not big enough, then that might not be where you're at starting off, okay? Just make sure that piece of equipment can be maximized for making you a lot of money. You don't want a mower that's just sitting over there that you use 1 or 2 times a week, and it's really not even paying for itself. You'd rather have, like I had that Mini Z. It was my everything mower, and it made me a lot of money, whereas sometimes you have a specialty piece of equipment and you're really not making enough money off of it to justify owning it. All right, the second thing I want to talk about in this video for starting a lawn care business is your target market. And you need to think through that, because sometimes people ask me, hey, Jason, I live in such and such a town and we've got 15,000 people or 50,000 people or whatever. You know, can I start a lawn care business? Well, I don't know the answer to that because I don't live there. But you can pretty much figure out without doing a lot of research, is there a demand for lawn care services in your area? Now, if it's extremely rural area, a lot of times people are just not gonna pay for that. And so there's no business in even wasting your time trying to start a lawn care business where there's no demand for it. But if there's, it doesn't have to be a big town. I mean, even where I live, a town of about 25,000 people, but there's a big demand. I mean, a real big demand, because a very high percentage of those 25,000 people pay for lawn care services. And there's other towns nearby and they pay for lawn care service. So, you know, you wanna evaluate your target market and then be kind of specific on what you're gonna target. You talk about, then you wanna be specific about what you're gonna target, what areas, because you hear people talk a lot about route density, and you want to try to get a lot of customers close by where you're not spending all the time driving between yards. So don't just say, well, I'm gonna take a yard over here and a yard over there, and you end up doing 5 yards in a day and you spend an hour and a half driving to those 5 yards. That's not a good business model. Now again, you may have to start off with them a little bit spaced out, because you know it's not realistic that you're gonna go get 25 yards in one neighborhood the first year. If you do, that's great, but that'd be difficult to do. So you might say, I see the potential in this area and I believe I can get 25 over the next few years. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the customer there and try to build on that, try to get their neighbors and their neighbors and really focus on that. And one of the ways you can do that is using Facebook and sending out letters or door hangers to the neighbors of your existing customers. Third area I wanna talk about in this video is your pricing. I used to price my yards way too low. I'll just go ahead and say it. And then I think this goes along with other things, but there's a lot of reasons you don't want to price your lawns low, but let me just go over some of those. One, it's going to most likely attract the wrong type of customer, somebody that's just looking for a deal. And so they say, hey, this is the cheapest guy around, that's who I'm gonna use. That's not the customer you're looking to build around. Another reason is as you grow, your expenses may increase, especially if you have to hire someone to help you, then that's gonna greatly increase your overhead. And if your prices are bottom of the barrel, then it's not able to support. You're gonna actually start making less profit as you grow, because your overhead is gonna be growing and your prices are still low. So it may work fine when you're working so low and you don't have many expenses, but as your business grows and your expenses grow, if your pricing is really low, it's gonna greatly hurt you. So, you know, you might have to do a little bit of research to understand what the rates are in your area, but you wanna at least be middle of the road and hopefully higher than middle of the road, because again, there's a amount of people out there that are willing to pay more for quality. But you got to present yourself that way. You got to present yourself in the way you carry yourself, in the way your truck looks, the way, you know, if you have a website, I mean, you know, set yourself up to where, yes, we are excellent and we charge just a little bit more than average, or maybe you want to go sure enough high end, but at least middle of the road, and make them say that we make up for it on the service end. Now, if you're pitiful on your service end, then don't try to command a high price. But if you know that you're going to provide outstanding service and be reliable, there are people who will pay more than that, who've been burned by lesser companies in the past. They will pay a little bit more for quality. And that's my recommendation to you, is to target those customers with that pricing structure. Another thing you want to consider on pricing, if it's a yard that's out of the way, you know, it's a little bit further out of the way, you either don't do it or you charge them more. You can't charge the same price, in my opinion, it's not smart to do this. If it's a yard that's 15-minute drive out of the way, then of course it's not going to be the same price as one that's next door to your existing customer, because that's 15 minutes of you driving over there. If you got people riding in the truck with you to get to that yard, then you're wasting money and that's costing money. Also, if it's a yard that might be the same size as another yard but has a lot of obstacles, a lot of landscaping, a lot of challenges on a big hill, something like that, it's got a small gate and you got to push mow the backyard, those things have to be factored in. If they require bagging the lawn, those things have to be factored in, because your time is your money. The fourth thing I want to talk about in this video is your marketing strategy. Now, sometimes people have a strategy, I'm just going to pound the pavement, I'm going to knock on doors, I'm going to leave postcards, door hangers. That can work. It's hard work, just to be honest with you. The percentages are low. on getting feedback unless you just somehow caught the right neighborhood. And when I say the right neighborhood, I would look for a neighborhood that had hundreds of houses that were new construction. They're still building houses where you know people are fresh into that neighborhood. They're still moving into these houses and you're trying to get them before your competition does. And also, again, they're typically like cookie cutter yards. There's nothing complicated about them. To me, that's a real profitable situation. That would be the neighborhood I would target. But other ways you can do that is through building relationships with other people in the community, whether it be, like I said, if you're mowing grass, you get to know the weed control guys because they send you customers. I do that. I do a lot of weed control. I have mowing guys send me business. I send them business. So if you can get to know those guys, that's a great thing. Also, if you can be a part of like local Facebook groups and be active on there when people are looking for lawn care, you can post, you can have friends post. That's a good way to get kind of started in the community. It's hard to get started sometimes, but once you get established, then the business comes in a lot easier. The fifth thing I want to talk about is your long-term plan. And what I mean by this is you got to think when you start off, some people just say, well, I'm just take on whatever business I can get. I just need the money, whatever I can. If somebody wants me to clean the gutters or change the irrigation head or whatever, I just need the money, I'll do anything. Well, where are you trying to take this thing? Are you wanting to be a high-end solo operator? Are you wanting to grow to multiple trucks? Are you wanting to expand into landscaping or weed control and fertilization or do something else longer? Are you just wanting to mow grass? There's no necessarily right or wrong answer, but if you don't have a plan, it's difficult to get there. So you need to think through what you're trying to accomplish and what do you want your business to look like in 5 years from now or even 2 years from now. Like, what's it going to be different than what it is now? Because you need to start moving that way, and you need to evaluate, if I'm trying to get here, let's look at my business and am I getting there? If I say, well, I'm trying to make $100,000 profit within 2 to 3 years. Well, this year I made $30,000, so I've got a long way to go. So what do I need to do? Do I need to adjust my price? Do I need more customers? Do I need to expand in something else? Do I need to look at a more profitable side of the industry? Or what am I need to do? So anyway, you got to think through these things, and I think so many people just get out there and they just start going and they just let the current take them wherever it may without any real plan or direction for their business. All right, the sixth thing I want to talk about, and this is similar along the lines of that, but thinking through an exit strategy. You may say, Jason, we're talking about starting a lawn business. I don't have an exit strategy. What do you mean? Well, I'm talking about what do you plan to do to retire one day? Or you want to mow grass until you're 85 years old? I think you need to start thinking through that. And I know for me personally, I didn't think through that. And my recommendation would be, if you're young and your expenses are low, try to make as much money as possible, and I guess that's good advice for anybody, but really look in trying to invest that, because if you can start investing when you're young, and whatever that looks like, stock market, or you want to do rental properties or whatever, I'm trying to put my money in the stock market and be strategic about doing that and letting it grow over the long term. But if you can be aggressive in your savings, then you say, okay, I've got a plan towards retiring one day. And you may say, well, that might be 40 years from now. Well, you need at least a plan, and maybe you can get there before 40 years. I don't mean you have to sit around and do nothing, but you wouldn't be forced to work. Where some people look at it and they say, I'm making a living this year. I made $50,000. Well, that's fine, but if you're not saving for the future, then are you going to be able to do that when you're 85 years old? You may be in a situation where you're going to have to. So I think you need to think through, if you don't have some sort of savings plan or retirement plan or what to do with the money. I think sometimes the problem is we think, I just made enough for this year. I'm paying my bills this year and I got a little bit of extra to go on vacation and buy Christmas gifts. That's fine, but you really need to make more than that so that you can begin saving for the future, and you don't have to be mowing grass for your whole life. Because the truth is, there's a lot of money to be made, and you can actually make way more than you need to live on. But you got to control your lifestyle, and then you got to take that money and invest it and do something where it'll grow on its own. And the seventh thing I want to talk about, again, related to money, because I think this is where we struggle so bad as lawn care business people. I see people, and it seems like they run their business so they can make more money, so that they can go buy better equipment, and you really don't have a lot left over. I read a book that is not complicated, or I listened to the audio version of it, but it's called Profit First. Some people have may be familiar with that book, but he kind of just changed my thinking on business, and like, listen, we're in business not to just have more tax write-offs or, you know, just buy nicer things. Like, we're literally in business to make a profit. And I mean, he just says, you got to make a profit. And his whole strategy is literally you take the profit out first of your business, and then that lets you know how much you're going to have left for expenses. Because what happens often, we spend the money on the expenses, and guess what? There's nothing left for profit. So, you know, you really need, if this is something that you're weak in, money, finances, accounting, you need some help in doing that. But just going and saying it's all going to take care of itself, I just got to get out there and mow grass. Listen, I've tried that. I've worked hard. I make money. And sometimes at the end of the year, there's not a whole lot left. Okay, and I just hit me. I say, I can't do that every year because I'm not going to be able to work for the rest of my life as I get older. Physically, you just can't do it. So you got to build a business where you just manage the business and you can hire people to run it. That is difficult to do, but can be done, and that would certainly allow you to continue working in the industry longer. Or you got to figure out a plan. Maybe one day I want to sell my business. To do that, to get a good return on it, probably needs to be a fairly large business. But, you know, again, this whole strategy of I'm just going to work and make a living, that's a very temporary view, and you got to think longer than that, and how I can one day make enough money to save to be able to get out of the lawn business. Not because we don't like the lawn business, it's just you can't do it forever. And if you run out there and you want to do all the work yourself, then the clock is ticking. And even though I've worked personally with a guy that was like 73 years old, that's rare. So you need to think, how can I get out of it before that age? I hope these tips are helpful for you. Would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of lawn care videos on here. Also have some resources available for you if you're in the lawn care industry or thinking about getting into it. You can check those out at lawncarelife.com. Appreciate you watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.